Welcome to the BrainShape podcast, hosted by Dr. Andrea Wilkinson, a show where we cut through the noise of the ever-growing, ever-changing world of brain health. What works and what doesn't, what's fact and what's fiction. We look at tips, tools, and techniques backed up by real scientific studies to help you keep your brain healthy and hopefully have some fun along the way. Now, here's your host, Dr. Andrea Wilkinson.
You're listening to the BrainShape podcast, episode number 29. Have you ever wanted to explore a new career path post-retirement? Do you have any interests from when you were younger that you never got to fully realize and you always wondered, what if? Do you have passions and goals that you want to explore now that you finally have the time to do so? Today we're talking about alternative approaches to aging with Suzy Grant, an author, broadcaster, and founder of Alternative Aging, a successful blog for the over 50s. After a career in TV, radio, and writing health books, Suzy retired at 60. By 65, she had started a blog to help spread her positive aging message. She is on a mission to inspire women to grow older, looking good and feeling great, and to never feel invisible or irrelevant. Her blog, YouTube channel, and social media is a mixture of fashion and style, health and aging, with plenty of travel and lifestyle thrown in. She regularly appears in the media, podcasts, and major brand campaigns to represent this important demographic. There are few 69-year-olds who could claim to be so successful on social media, with over 22,000 followers on Instagram alone. Here we go. Here's Suzy Grant. Hi, Suzy. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Hi, Andrea. I'm delighted to talk to you from across the pond.
I'm so excited. So I'm wondering if you can maybe start off by telling us a little bit about your background and your story. It's just so interesting.
It's a long one. Do interrupt when you want to, otherwise I'll talk forever. My main career was television and radio. I was a broadcaster. I was on screen. I read the news on TV. I presented programs, and I had a really, really wonderful career. And then I decided I wanted to write books, and I wanted to write books about health. So I went and trained as a nutritional therapist, not really intending to treat patients, but I did end up running clinics for, about 10 years. And that sort of took me from my 20s, 30s, 40s into middle age without having to worry too much about working at night and working early mornings. You know how the media is. It's very, very tough hours. But it was a really, really great career move because it just involved so much learning. I really believe in that to keep the brain active, and I learned heaps, and I ended up writing 3 books because of it.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then I retired at 60, and that's when everything changed.
Well, please go on into more detail about what are all the changes that happened after 60.
Well, shall I tell you about why I went into nutrition first? Would you like to hear about my mum? And
Yes.
Then I'll get into why I'm blogging. So around my early 40s, my mum, who was Bulgarian and had brought me up on the healthiest diet you can imagine, she actually had to buy olive oil from the pharmacy in the 50s in the UK because nobody used olive oil for cooking. And she grew her own veg, and we had a very Mediterranean-based diet. So I didn't grow up on the average English diet. I grew up on a very, very, very healthy Mediterranean diet. So I was absolutely shocked, rigid, when she died of a massive heart attack at the age of 63, so way younger than I am now.
Wow.
So that was a hell of a shock, and that was what prompted me to look into nutrition, look into health, I'm a great believer in preventative rather than curing. Let's get into, preventing disease. She was very unfit. She took no exercise. She was overweight, started smoking at the age of 63, which was weird, and drank heavily. So I think she was basically a very unhappy woman and really sad because she came from such a healthy background. She shouldn't have gone just like that and so young. And so that's why I started nutrition, which led to books and everything else. So fast forward to retiring at 60 with several books under my belt. I did nothing for 4 years. I renovated a house and really enjoyed not having to work. And then I got really bored. And I tried everything. I tried script writing. I tried novel writing. I tried everything I hadn't tried before, but none of them. I did courses, became a bit of a course junkie, but absolutely nothing really made me want to spring out of bed in the morning and think, yay, I've got another day. I'm going to attack this today and that today. And it was my two godchildren, amazingly, who separately suggested that I became a blogger. And it's so weird. And I'm sure you know Advanced Style, Ari Seth Cohen. Was huge in New York. He's moved to LA now, and he was featuring older women in New York. He was the one who brought Iris Apfel to all of our attention, and she's now 94 and modeling and appearing in ads and still working. And I thought, oh, this is it. This is what I would love to do, because I've always loved photography. I've obviously written all my life. I've obviously done videos all my life. I've broadcasted all my life. So I thought, this is wonderful. And that started literally this month, 5 years ago. And
wow.
I know, amazing, 5th anniversary. And now it is such a huge success that I'm working nearly full time. I'm having to turn work away and have had to get an agent. But, it makes me really, really happy because I feel like I have this massive mission to spread the word. It's very good in the States and Canada. You're very aware of women over 55, over 60 and beyond. But in the UK, I'm quite rare to be, my very late 60s and a successful influencer, which seems to be inspiring all women of all ages to not dread aging. That's my big thing. You don't need to dread aging. All you need to do is to stay healthy and vibrant and relevant and to never be invisible. So that's sort of why I started this, and that's where I am now, loving it.
Absolutely incredible. Can you tell us a little bit about your blog and the type of content that you share there?
Well, interestingly, the fashion, isn't it always the clothes? The clothes and the styling are always the most popular posts on Instagram, the most popular posts on the blog. I do an awful lot on health and, these are things you can put into your diet to be healthier, but they're never as popular as here I am styling some upcycled clothes. I'm very, very, very hot on recycling, on, going to shops to buy stuff that isn't new. I'm very into vintage. I mean, that's how I started, vintage lady, vintage style. And that seems to be the most popular of all. But I do travel blogging, and I do health blogging, and I do decluttering, everything that I do in my life, I share with my followers, and it seems to be going down really well.
Yes, absolutely. And you have excellent style, so I'm not at all surprised that your style posts and blogs are the most popular. Can you tell us about the transition from just blogging to then becoming an influencer on Instagram? Because you have quite the following. At the time of this recording, it's over 21,000 people, which is excellent. So how did that happen?
It's very big for the UK. It's absolutely nothing for the US, but it's very big for the UK. I'm over 22 now.
Oh, wow.
I worked very, very hard at it, like everything, Andrea. If you go and open a salon, I really want to emphasize this to anyone listening who wants to change career. Whatever you start off at, it's hard work and you don't get results overnight. I allowed myself 3 to 5 years to start earning money at it. I didn't actually ever start it to earn money. It was a hobby, but it's so nice for it to be so popular. And the extra money is lovely for traveling, which is another one of my hobbies.
Yes.
But it was very, very hard work. You don't open a shop, a store, you don't start any new business and expect it to be a success in the first 2 years, do you? It was very, very hard graft, as we say here. I did a course on improving my photography, especially for Instagram. I had to learn everything, which is, where you come in. I mean, it is so important to learn new stuff as you get older. I was getting to an age when I would be chatting away to somebody and then forget a word, an ordinary word, right in the middle of a sentence and go, what's that word? What's that word? And as soon as I started learning how to blog, obviously I had to learn all the technical side and how to get into the back end. I had to learn how Instagram works. I had to improve my photography skills. I had to learn to edit videos. So it was a huge learning curve, and I'm still learning. You never stop.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Absolutely. So it was hard work, but so worth it. And I think it's really helped my brain stay young.
Oh, absolutely. And it's something that I talk about often on the podcast, about the importance of taking on something new that you truly enjoy, because it's not just a matter of learning a new skill for the sake of learning a new skill. You wanted to learn about blogging and the back end of a website and how to upload everything and how to optimize photographs for Instagram and how Instagram growth works and all of those pieces. And because of that interest, it drove your learning in that area.
You're absolutely right. It has. In fact, I'm thinking of writing a blog on this. I suddenly realized, you'll love this. I was walking around the house one weekend thinking, I just spent 2 hours listening to music, which I also love music and love gigs and love concerts. Anyway, I was listening to music for a video and I thought, what's the matter with you? You've just spent 2 hours listening to music while you potter around the house, which is sort of work. And then I realized that in my 20s, I did exactly the same at home. Whenever I traveled in those days, we had audio visual. You're too old to remember, but you're too young to remember. But in the 70s and 80s, we had audio visual. So you would put your slides, your transparencies to music. And I used to do that at home as a hobby before I was even working in TV. Right. So it's obviously, that's what I want to write a blog about. It's obvious to me that whatever your passion was before you got into career is the passion you should look at when you retire. Everyone's got a passion, and if you don't need it to earn an income, I can't think of anything better than carrying on. Some people wanted to be ballet dancers and then never got to do it, or some people wanted to be amazing swimmers, or some people wanted to sew and never had the time. I just think it's tapping that passion that you've always had. And it was such a moment of realization, Andrea. I suddenly thought, oh my God, this is something I loved doing as a hobby in my 20s. So I've come like a whole circle and I'm now doing exactly what I loved doing in my 20s at home in between fun. I'm doing the same thing now.
Exactly. And you have also been featured in lots of magazines. So can you tell us a little bit about your favorite experience?
Well, they're all really enjoyable because journalists find me because of Instagram, because there are very few doing what I do. That they're good photos. I think that helps. Wouldn't you agree? It's a nice looking feed, and I think it attracts people.
Absolutely.
Interestingly, half of my 22,000 followers are under 35.
Interesting.
So, isn't it? So they write to me, they comment, engage. For anyone listening, the way to build an audience is engagement. That is everything. That's all Instagram care about nowadays. They don't care about followers. They don't care about likes. They care about how much you're engaging with your followers. And I've got as much engagement as people with 100,000 followers. So that's the key, to build up a niche audience. And I think that's what's attracted some of the big brands I've been working with, the campaigns that I'm working on with various brands, because it's all about diversity nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think I'm constantly interviewed because I'm filling that little niche. There's the young, and then there's the middle-aged, and then there's the oldies. And I'm now in the oldies bracket, although I don't ever think of myself as old. I can't say it. Physically, I am old. I'm like a vintage car. Things go rusty and don't go as fast as they used to. And I think that's what's attracting the journalists, because they love names like Instagram. I mean, I'm not even a granny, but I've been featured in various features as an Instagram, one of the most popular Instagrams, or, why I started blogging at the age of 64, or fashion. They're very, very keen on my styling and the fact that I'm not afraid of bright colors. And that, I'm trying to encourage every reader out there that no matter what their age, they don't need to be invisible. They can still look vibrant and to look the very, very best they can, as well as feeling the very, very best they can. That's what's important to me. It's all about feeling good, which is all to do with lifestyle and diet and no stress and enough sleep, as well as finding really, really cheap ways of dressing up a little bit. That I got into headscarves and did lots of tutorials on tying headscarves, simply because I was growing my hair out of bright orange into natural grey, and of course the roots were horrific. So I started wearing headscarves, and that became that became one of my looks. And I started going to vintage markets and other markets more and more, and finding wonderful old bangles and necklaces and vintage style clothes, and pre-loved as much as possible to try and help save the planet. So I think that's definitely here. And I'm sure it is there. That's definitely resonating with the public, and I think that's why the journalists are interviewing me like nearly weekly. I get an interview, so it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. And it's so important, I think, in media to show a different perspective. And there's been previously a lot of ageism that's really existed in media, where, after, especially for females, after they reach a certain age, they kind of become invisible, as you've mentioned. And now we see that shifting, which is so incredible and amazing. And you're part of the group of wonderful women that are leading the charge in this way to say, we're here and we're proud and we can't be ignored. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on ageism in brands and the media, and how that you've been witnessing that shift and being a part of that shift.
Thank you. Yes, lovely words, Andrea. It's so true. I do feel like a bit of a pioneer in the UK. I think the shift has come about purely because at last, because of all the various movements going on all over the world, they are suddenly realizing, that there's a massive spending power for people over 50, and they've been ignoring them. And secondly, that, you know, women over 50 don't want to buy clothes that are modeled by a white, skinny, size 0 model. They want people they can actually relate to. So I noticed a huge shift from going. A lot of brands still use older celebrities, but I've seen a huge shift in the last 2 years. I've been involved in a couple of campaigns where they have made it their absolute statement to include a diverse group. Now, we're still only token, but, you know, there is always a woman of a bigger size. There's always, you know, they try and cover disability. They try and cover people of different colours. I was on a shoot with a transsexual. She was amazing. And so, okay, we're only token. I was discussing this with a wonderful black girl the other day. And she's the same. She said, yeah, it's changing. We're being represented, but it's always only one of us. But at least it's moving in the right direction. And the brands that are doing it are really, well, they've got such huge success. So they're not stupid. They're finally waking up. I've spoken at a marketing conference. Now, you know, you go and talk to a bunch of marketing people, they're all under 30. They don't have the slightest idea till you actually remind them that the people with the most money are the people over 50 and the retirees. They're the ones. We still want fashion at any age. We like nice clothes. We love beauty products. We want to travel. You know, we want to do everything within reason that we did when we were young, and we've got more time and more spending power to do it. So it's ridiculous to ignore us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's also been kind of a trend in your generation's mindset, because even when you guys were, you know, in your teenage years or young 20s, it was still the same. You know, we're not going to be ignored. You have to be listened to in this regard. And so now you're just bringing that with you as you're getting older. And I want to just shift a little bit and talk about your books, because you've written quite a few books, you know, in the past. So can you tell us a little bit about the topics that you've covered in some of the books that you've written?
Sure. Well, as I said, when I trained as a nutritionist, it was actually for the sole purpose of to be able to, because I've spent my life fighting, to be able to have a much easier life, move from London to the seaside. I'm on the south coast, so I have the ocean near me every day. And I just thought, well, this is a great career for middle age, you know, not the same kind of stress. And if I know what I'm talking about and I'm actually qualified, people are more likely to want to read what I'm sharing. And as I said, I did actually love it so much and became so passionate about healthy eating that I treated literally hundreds and hundreds of patients. The first book was, I don't know if you can still get it, but the first book was actually the most popular, but then books sold better, didn't they? Books aren't selling like they used to. But the first one was called 48 Hours to a Healthier Life. And it was basically how to do a reprogramming at home to save money and not have to go to a spa. And that did really, really well. So it's, you know, everything from a clean diet to healthy baths and how to do self-massage and all that sort of thing. The next book was about weight loss, and isn't this true of everything? My heart wasn't in it because I don't like dieting. I won't even use the word dieting. It was just various ways, and it was before intermittent fasting became so big, which I'm a huge fan of. It was just, you know, here are 3 different eating plans that if you need to lose weight healthily, this is what you do. But that didn't do half as well. And then the third book was Alternative Aging, which is what prompted me 10 years later to start the blog, because I had the name and I thought, well, it's my name. I came up with it for the book. And that's done very, very well. And I think of that very much as my baby, because it's again, how to age healthily. You know, we all know how to age healthily. Of course we do. But I actually wrote a book all about it, you know, what to look out for, how to get through the menopause, the perimenopause, how to look after your brain, of course, how to keep stronger bones. I mean, literally everything from head to toe. And then, because of the success of the blog, my publishers actually asked me to do a revised version, which came out this year. So I've got a very pretty paperback available all over, definitely where you are, which has brought into it all the latest research. Oh, something you'll find really interesting is that 10 years ago when I wrote, or 12 years ago when I wrote the first version, the book, this is how far we've come. The first book was peppered with anti-aging this, anti-aging that. And so when I rewrote the book, I had to write to the publishers and say, please, the editor, and say, please take out every single anti-aging, because that's one of my bugbears. You know, we're anti-cruelty, we're anti-poverty, we're anti-war. Why on earth would you be anti-aging? It's an absolute privilege to age.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely. And it's not at all. It's about celebrating aging, in fact.
It is. And in fact, I'll share this with you because I've had a real problem facing 70. I'm 70 at the end of this year. And to me, that just sounds so old compared to 60-something. But I'm embracing it. And actually, I realize that I'm in a wonderful position to take everyone with me to not fear being over 70. You know, we're not old and decrepit. Well, we don't have to be old and decrepit. We're just aging. And it's a privilege to be alive and healthy. I've lost so many friends in their 40s, in their 50s, in their 60s, let alone 70s, 80s, and 90s. That, you know, if we can go forward healthily with our brains working and our bodies working, yeah, we don't have the same energy, but we can certainly live a very, very full life. That's really what I wanted to share with the latest book, and tips on things like fasting and the best diet. You know, everything that's new and out there, I've tried to encompass.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about just that fasting piece, because I know that you mentioned that you were really on board with this notion of fasting. So can you tell us a little bit about your personal experience?
Yes, I am. Now, when I first trained as a nutritionist, it was a very holistic course. So interestingly, now this is going back to 1999. I mean, that long ago. On the very, very first week, apart from being told we must drink more water to hydrate our cells, we were advised to fast once a week and to advise our patients to fast once a week. So it's been around forever. All the science and research goes back to the 30s. But because of people like the wonderful Professor Longo, I'm sure you know him, and various doctors here who've brought it to the world's attention by appearing on television and doing documentaries and writing books, it's become absolutely huge. And I know people in their 80s who are doing the 5-2 diet. You know, they eat under 600 calories or 500 calories, depending on their sex. They eat under 500 calories for 2 days a week. And the other 5 days they eat, it's not 5-2. Yes, the other 5 days they eat normally. And that has had a profound effect on people's weight, which is not, I mean, I really need to emphasize this, it's not a diet, but people use it as a diet. However, it is incredibly good for bringing blood pressure down, for a healthier heart, for lower cholesterol. The science is there. So I'm a huge fan of it, and intermittent fasting that Professor Longo brought in, which is literally doing quite a tough 5-day fast 2 or 3 times a year. But my favorite for myself, if anyone wants my top tip, it depends what kind of person. You have to find the right fast for you. But it really is important if you want to live long and live healthy. And what I found is really easy for me is to do the 16-8. I will eat what I like, literally what I like. I mean, I don't eat things like massive donuts and things like that, but I do eat normal food and a lot of it for 8 hours a day. And then I stop eating around 7 p.m. So I love an early dinner. And I don't drink if I'm out. We try not to drink after 7 because it really affects your sleep as you get older. And then I don't eat again for between 12 and 16 hours because I don't like breakfast. So for me, it's really easy. And I've been doing the 16-8 probably for about a year. And I've lost weight without even trying, Andrew. I didn't have a lot to lose, but I'm so much leaner than I used to be simply doing that. And I hope healthier. I mean, my blood pressure, cholesterol, everything is absolutely great for my age. So I'm a big fan and it suits me. She says, starving, hungry now, I need food.
Yeah, exactly. But as you mentioned, you're not ever feeling starving, hungry, and it's not about dieting or restricting yourself. You finish eating at 7 at night and you're fine until you eat at some point in the morning.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, I mean, you're asleep for 8 hours of it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really easy because I've never been one of these people, though a lot of people are. One of my best buddies, I mean, she eats the second she wakes up. But for me, that is completely just not something I've ever done. So I will have water and then I'll have coffee, organic, black, and then I'll have a green juice, something that isn't food. And then I will eat a proper breakfast or brunch at sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 11, often it's midday, and that's it. And it's really, I think it's helping. I'll let you know. Come back to me in 30 years and see if I'm still alive.
Well, I'll be watching you on Instagram. That is for sure. So your updated version of alternative aging. So I also want to note that aging is spelt the British way. So it's Ageing. You cover
Absolutely correct.
You cover all of the tips that you've already talked about. So the foods you should be eating and avoiding, how to keep your skin glowing, natural ways to boost your hormones, stress busting tips, and then also the fasting, as well as a whole bunch of other topics that you cover. So where can listeners go to get their hands on this updated version of alternative aging?
Well, over there, you can get it on Amazon. It's a pretty blue book. It says energy on the front cover, so you should be able to get it really easily. My blog you can find really easily. I mean, if you just Google alternative aging, Ageing, although I gather it still comes up if you spell it the other way, you'll find me. You'll find the books. You'll find my YouTube. If you go to my blog, you'll find everything there. Or if you go to my Instagram, they all link together. Everything's called alternative aging, apart from Twitter, because of their shortness. It's alternative age. But yeah, it's all out there. And I would be thrilled to see you on Instagram. And I'm very good at answering. If you comment on YouTube or my blog or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, you will get an answer. That's what takes my time up now, because I really believe if you've got an audience out there, at least talk to them if they're nice enough to leave you a message.
Absolutely. I am fully subscribing to that model of engaging and socializing on social media. It's so interesting, and you meet so many wonderful people, and that's how we met, right? On Instagram.
Exactly. I meet interesting people every single day, and we can, I meet complete strangers in some cities because we know each other through Instagram, and it's always an absolute delight. And you learn so much from everyone else as well. If I'm not sure of something and put it out there, as I'm sure you find, you get an answer. It's wonderful.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Suzy. Your story and your work is so incredibly inspiring and insightful. And if listeners want to follow you, where's the best place they can go to find out more?
I guess Instagram's a good place to start, don't you? Alternative Aging, all one word on Instagram, because I always put the links up. But, I know that YouTube's really popular in the States and Canada. For some reason, it's more popular there amongst women of a certain age. So maybe start with YouTube. It's up to you. I would be delighted to see you wherever you come and visit me. But the blog as well is a good place to start, because all the links are on there to all the channels and everything that I do.
Right. And everything is connected to Alternative Aging, spelt with an E.
Correct. Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Suzy.
Thanks so much for the great chat.
It was so great connecting. Have a wonderful day.
And you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
To learn more about the work that Suzy Grant is doing on alternative aging, you can visit her website at alternativeaging.net. Aging is spelt the British way, Ageing. I'll put the link in the show notes, and you can also follow her very popular Instagram account, spelt the same way, at Alternative Aging. If you've missed any of this, you can dive into the show notes for this episode and all past episodes at www.brainshape.ca/podcast. To access the show notes from today's episode specifically, just type episode 29 in the search bar, and today's episode will pop right up. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this episode inspired you to pursue your goals, dreams, and ambitions at any age. You have a unique voice and message that the world needs to hear. So I hope that you will choose to share your light with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. And since we're a weekly show, I'll see you back here next week. In the meantime, you can follow me on social media at BrainShapeTO, and be sure to let me know your burning questions for the Andrea Answers segment by emailing me at andrea@brainshape.ca. Until next time, keep your brain in shape. And as always, I've had such a great time hanging out with you.